With the baby boomers dying off, many people ask me, what is Gen Z like and what does it mean for the future? But with the baby boomers dying off, I don't have time to answer. And anyway, what's it to me? However, there is a new poll out on how these Gen Z whippersnappers see things, and the results are very encouraging in the sense they'll allow me to die happy in the knowledge that the rest of you are screwed. The poll of around 3,000 respondents between the ages of 18 and 29 was specially designed to elicit information from young people by posing its questions in the form of emojis and inarticulate whining noises, and then pretending to take the answers seriously. The results had a margin of error of 79% because the young people had no clue what the hell they were talking about and then changed their minds when they found out what life was really like. The young people were asked such questions as, what do you value most? Is America headed in the right direction? What the hell do you know, you nose-ringed freak? And why don't you get a job and find your own place to live? You're 20 years old already, for crying out loud. The respondents were then divided by gender using a buzzsaw and a surgical needle threaded with fishing line. Then the genders were separated politically by riot police with tear gas and rubber bullets. Finally, the survivors sat around smoking weed until the women fell asleep, and the men, of course, had sex with them. The results of the poll show that among young men, the number one thing they valued most was having children. The number 4 thing they valued was getting married. Numbers 2 and 3 were avoiding paying child support and using pig's blood during a paternity test before changing their names and moving out of state. Among women, the number 1 thing they valued most was their jobs. The number 2 thing they valued was emotional stability, and the number 3 thing they valued were antidepressants. These women also valued making TikTok videos expressing completely nonsensical opinions in a smug voice while smiling like Anthony Perkins at the end of Psycho and secretly wishing some guy would marry them and tell them what to do because they're obviously out of their minds. The poll also revealed ingrained differences between young men and women when it came to political issues. For instance, 56% of young men feel that Donald Trump is doing an excellent job as president, while 82% of young women also have political opinions, but nobody bothered to write them down because, let's face it, who cares? The biggest political divide between the genders was on immigration. Young women felt that it was a crying shame to deport an upstanding pillar of the community just because he had come here illegally and had drunkenly crashed his car into an elementary school, then escaped before the police discovered the child tied up in his trunk. Young men didn't answer the question because they were too busy watching cool videos of ICE agents slamming fat Mexicans into the sides of their jalopies while screaming the F word. One surprising result in the poll is that young people increasingly favor socialism. They listed their primary reasons as 1, they'd have a lot of time to play Candy Crush while they were standing in line to get a loaf of bread. 2, they've seen the miniseries Chernobyl, and it looked really cool when people's flesh started to melt like in a science fiction movie, only real. And 3, under socialism, there would be no corporations, and everything would be free. So you could just pick up a new iPhone anytime you wanted it, wherever it is that iPhones come from. All in all, the results of the poll demonstrated that Generation Z is called Generation Z for a good reason, namely, nothing comes after Z. Trigger warning, I'm Andrew Klavan, and this is The Andrew Klavan Show. All right, we are back laughing our way through the second coming. Please go out and pre-order After That the Dark. You will love it. I would not be selling it so hard if I did not think you were absolutely going to love it. The PW, our main pre-publication trade paper, called it brilliant. It's been called what else? It was called a nonstop thrill ride in the American Spectator. It's about 2 strangers in 2 different cities, far away from each other. They never met each other, but they commit 2 very similar, impossible murders. And Cameron Winter realizes that a third one is on the way if he doesn't figure out what connects them. Go on dailywire.com/Klavan, and they give you all the places you can get it. Go on Amazon if you get it there. It is really helpful to pre-order it because it means I can get it on the bestseller list, which means I can write more of them, which means there will still be a conservative artist alive in this country. And that's just about it. Also, wherever you watch the show, wherever you get it, whether you just get it, in your imagination or whether you look at it, on your secretly while locked in the bathroom on your iPad, just leave a comment there, even if it is in your imagination. imagination. And if your imagination is as sick as the content of the show, we will read your comment on the air. The comment today is from listener 523. That's a sinister name. I don't understand the compulsion to call Charlie Kirk's assassin a schizo or a radical. There's been no evidence supporting that. He stated his motives. Charlie was spreading hate. That's not radical. That is the mainstream Democrat position. Any Times article or CNN story would say the exact same thing. You're absolutely right. And my whole point is that it's induced mental illness. In other words, there's something wrong with the guy. I could tell just from the sort of things he had written. But then you have all this information coming in from reliable sources that drives people insane, like tells people you can change your sex. I mean, that's how you drive people nuts. All right. Before we get started, I want to just point out, I suspended playing the Trump happiness montage because of the sadness and the grief that I think we're all feeling. It didn't seem to fit in. And now I don't feel I can go back to playing it again. I feel its time has passed. We ran the joke into the ground. So I actually have created a new montage, which I want to test out starting with the show today. And, if you like it, we'll keep playing it. It's cut one.
We're going to win so much. We're going to win at every level. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. We're going to win economically. We're going to win with the economy. We're going to win with military. We're going to win with healthcare and for our veterans. We're going to win with every single facet.
Zippity-doo-dah, zippity-yay. My, oh my. What a wonderful day.
We're going to win so much, you may even get tired of winning. Yay! You'll say, please, please, it's too much winning. We can't take it anymore.
I feel pretty, oh so pretty. I feel pretty and witty and gay.
We have to keep winning. We have to win more. We're going to win more.
So let me know what you think of that. I worked very hard on it, and we'll play it if you like it. Now let's get to today's episode, A Bend in the Arc of History, Chapter 1, Hard Truths. So as you know, I never sleep, but sometimes I sleep. And when I want to go to sleep, I turn to Beam's Dream Powder. Beam is proudly founded in America and run by people who share our values, hard work, integrity, and delivering results. It's a healthy nighttime blend packed with science-backed ingredients shown to improve sleep so you can wake up refreshed and ready to take on the day. And unlike other sleep aids, which I do not use, there's no next day grogginess, just great restful sleep. That's because Dream is made with a powerful blend of all natural ingredients, reishi, magnesium, apigenin, and melatonin, and L-theanine, and it tastes fantastic. It's no wonder Beam has already logged 17.5 million better nights of sleep for people who refuse to settle for mediocrity. I love it because it works and it doesn't make me groggy and it tastes good. No, what else do I need? And here's the deal. Beam is giving my listeners the ultimate Patriot discount of up to 40% off. Try their best-selling Dream Powder and get up to 40% off for a limited time. Go to shopbeam.com/Klavan and use code Klavan at checkout. That's shop, BEAM.com/Klavan and use code Klavan for up to 40% off. Sleep better, wake up stronger, show up ready for your family, your work, and your country, but only if you know how to spell Klavan. It's Klavan. So obviously there are events that deflect the arc of history. They bend the arc of history. And, things like the Kennedy assassination, which changed everything that happened when I was 9 or 10 years old, and that changed the entire tenor of the country. It was never quite the same. 9/11 was one. I don't think anything was the same after 9/11. And I think that, Charlie Kirk's assassination is going to have a subtler effect. Those were big things that affected every single person in the country. This has only affected people who cared about Charlie and who care about him even if they didn't know about him before, but it is going to have an effect. And when you look back on these times, you're going to see that it has an effect. Events change history because they change us, right? They change the way we look at things, they change our mood, and we then change the country because we take it where as we feel it should go. And I think that's what's happening now. What is happening now is that the media, which is 100% corrupt, it's not 99% corrupt, it's not 98%, it's 100% corrupt, is trying to change the conversation. They're trying to talk about Jimmy Kimmel, or was as, Charlie Hateful and evil right-wingers doing evil things, and Donald Trump is outlandish. Well, we are using new media to share the things that are really happening, like showing Charlie's videos so people realize he's not hateful, and the memorial so you see, that these horrible, evil Nazis that everybody's been attacking all the time are actually calling for forgiveness and love, and just reminding everyone of what the Biden administration was like while the press lied about that. And I think the thing is, as I keep saying, I don't think the mainstream media understands that we can do that now. We see them now. We understand that we can, in real time, we can debunk what they're saying. We haven't got their reporting power yet, but we have the power to debunk and show things that they won't show or that they hide. And people can go on cable and they can go on Fox News. They can come here. They can do all the things to get the information, or just on X, and get the information they want. So everybody in the mainstream press is talking about Jimmy Kimmel is back on the air. And meanwhile, TPUSA, Charlie's organization, is doing this tour, and people are lined up outside university settings forever. They're lined up, wrapped around several blocks, because young people are pouring in to find out what this movement is all about. So they're trying to distract us, and they're missing the real story and making themselves even more irrelevant. And that's good. I'm glad. I want them to do that. I want them to keep lying and keep thinking we're listening while we spread the truth and hopefully build up reporting power and cultural power. Now, if you want to have a sense of what the change is going to look like, get a real sense, because we don't know which way things are going to go. But if you want to get a sort of range of choices of which way things can go, you have to be brutally honest. And this is one of the reasons that people come to the show, because I'm not a sentimental person. It's not that I have no sentiment. It's not that I have no sentimentality. And I want to get rid of all of the angry and triumphalist feelings, because your angry feelings cause you to make absurd generalizations, that, like I've talked about before. They killed Charlie Kirk, that kind of thing. And your triumphalist feelings misrepresent the world, like all things happen for the better, or now they've unleashed the beast and we're going to take over everything. None of that's going to happen. So, you want to get rid of those feelings. Let me tell you a hard truth. And this I know from a lifetime of watching the world and watching a lot of assassinations, because when I was a kid, they happened all the time. Assassinations work. Assassinations work. Everyone says, Charlie's work will continue. But the whole point of evil is that it underscores the glory of God in the worst way. It proves that a murder proves that each one of us who is made in God's image is unique. And the more we play into the image of God inside us, the more unique we become. That's one of the weird ways that God works in the world, that you think you're going to lose your identity by becoming, by following God, but in fact you find your identity by letting yourself go and putting God into your heart. We can't be replaced. And you look at Lincoln after he died, Reconstruction was totally derailed. I mean, it was totally taken over by people who hated the South and wanted to destroy it, instead of Lincoln, who wanted to proceed with malice toward none. After JFK was murdered, LBJ seized the sentiment, because he used people's emotions. He seized the sentiment aroused by JFK's death and started passing the Great Society, which basically stopped the rise of Black Americans into the middle class, basically stopped it cold. Killing of Martin Luther King, I don't know if you know this, after Martin Luther King was shot on this balcony, Jesse Jackson, who in my opinion is a total grifter, just a complete, bad guy who just used the movement, King's movement, for his own good, he appeared the next day wearing a bloody shirt. The next day, saying that, he forgot to change his shirt, and he'd been cradling, the dying Martin Luther King in his arms, while witnesses who were on the balcony said Jesse Jackson was down below and was nowhere near this, but he used that to take over the movement. So those are the things that are going to happen now. This movement that Charlie built is a big thing. People want the power that's there, and it's still an open question. Who's going to get the power? So watching Charlie's memorials, I picked out 3 speeches that I thought represented strains of possible leadership in the movement, ways the movement can go. There were other great speeches. Rubio's speech was great. Larry Arnn's speech was really interesting. This is not a review. This is not like a movie review. These are speeches that just represented strains that I thought we should watch for as we look to see what happens next, and we look to see where we should stand in this moment that is going to bend the arc of American history. And so first, there was Tucker Carlson, and I've been completely blunt about the fact that I think Tucker Carlson is a man who has lost his way. I don't know why he's lost his way. Some people say it's money, maybe it's fame, maybe it's true sentiment, but he got up and he started talking about Jesus' death. And he was accused, and I accuse him now, I accuse him of suggesting not just that the Jews killed Christ, but sort of suggesting that the Jews had something to do with the death of Charlie Kirk, which is a nonsense. But here's the way he described the gospel scene of the elders conspiring against Christ. This is cut 2.
I can just sort of picture the scene in a lamplit room with a bunch of guys sitting around eating hummus, thinking about what do we do about this guy telling the truth about us? We must make him stop talking. And there's always one guy with the bright idea, and I can just hear him say, I've got an idea, why don't we just kill him? That'll shut him up. That'll fix the problem.
That's a crazy laugh. Now, Tucker issued a statement saying he didn't mean to suggest anything about the Jews, and I don't believe him. I don't believe him because he says things that are untrue. That we went to war after 9/11 at the behest of Israel, not true. That a man who cast doubt on the anti-Semitic genocidal intentions of the Holocaust is a great historian, not true. That Hamas is a political organization, not a terrorist organization, not true. So he tells untruths centered on attacking Israel and I think the Jewish people. And here's the thing that you have to understand. This is another hard truth. The conservative audience that all conservatives are battling over and dividing up is about 20 million people. Okay, that's not that many people. All of us want a piece of that audience. About 5 million of those people subscribe to Candace Owens' podcast. So that's a quarter are subscribing. No one wants to alienate a quarter of the possible audience by standing up against these things, except for me because I'm on a mission from God. So people give cover to this kind of nonsense. They blend it in with other ideas. They don't want to attack the things that Tucker says. And they're betting, some people are betting that our next president, who's going to be J.D. Vance, as you heard it, you get tomorrow's news today. I'll tell you, it's going to be Vance. They think that Vance, who has hung out with Tucker, is going to support and elevate these things. And I'm betting that Vance is a better man than that. I'm pretty sure I'm right, but we'll see. We'll see who wins. We don't know. And so that's one of the things you have to watch for. You have to watch for people who don't stand up against these things that are not true. They're not true. I mean, in the Bible, the tell in what Tucker Carlson said was he said, he had the Jews saying these people are telling the truth about us. Jesus was telling the truth about everybody. And the Jews, as always in Scripture, represent all of mankind in their relationship to God. There are no other people in the Bible because other people were not yet in a relationship with God before Christ. They were not in a relationship with God. The Jews were, and so they represent all of us, everybody in the Bible. And so there's no the Jews in that sense when you read the Bible. There's just all of us. Then there was Erica Kirk. And she made a shockingly luminous and beautiful speech, just an absolute expression of the Christian heart, talking about the fact that the people that Charlie most was directed at saving were young men like the man who killed him. And this is what she said about that. This is cut 3.
That man, that young man, I forgive him. I forgive him because it was what Christ did and is what Charlie would do. The answer to hate is not hate. The answer we know from the gospel is love and always love. Love for our enemies and love for those who persecute us.
Now, of course, even the left was forced to endorse this message because they misuse it too. They mean it. They think it means there's no justice. They think it means this guy should, I don't know, be let out with no bail. Who knows what they think? But it's not. It's a question of her spiritual relationship to this man's spirit. And she also said a lot of things that are ramifications of the fact that there is, in fact, a God. See, this is the important thing, that she understands that there is a God. And so that is why she wants to forgive, because she knows that will align the image of God within her with the image of God himself. That's why you want to forgive, because it puts you in reality. But she also mentioned other ramifications of God, like gender roles, calling on women, to be the encouragers of their men and to be in a female role and saying this to men. This is what she said to men, cut 4.
To all the men watching around the world, accept Charlie's challenge and embrace true manhood. Be strong and courageous for your families. Love your wives and lead them. Love your children and protect them. Be the spiritual head of your home. But please be a leader worth following.
Now, I wanted to play that specifically because for all of you who have written to me saying, well, Andrew Tate may do some bad things, but he really has something to say. He has nothing to say. He has 0% to say. Andrew Tate has nothing to say. That lady has something to say. She's telling you something. I know the feminists hate what she says, right? But and the masculinists, the guys like Tate, hate what she says because women like Erica make men men. When you lead them, they take you where you need to go. It is the mystery of gender. Weak men are afraid of it. Nasty women use it. But good men and women know that it doesn't work out. The power relationships don't work out the way you think they will. They're very mutual, and each one feeds off the other and feeds the other and grows the other. And finally, so that's another source of power that might take over this movement that we hope will be at the core of this movement because it's the core of human life. It's the core of our relationship with God. It's the core of everything. It's the core of human reality. And if you can ever focus anything, it's hard to do, but if you can ever focus anything on forgiveness and love, you will find that you are living in reality, and that will give you a much better life in every possible way. And finally, there was Donald Trump. And again, I'm not leaving anybody out. This is not a review. These are just focusing on strains of power that I think will move in this moment. Donald Trump, it remains the single funniest president, at least since Reagan and maybe since Lincoln. He responded to this talking about Charlie's Christian attitudes, cut 5.
He did not hate his opponents. He wanted the best for them. That's where I disagreed with Charlie. I hate my opponent. And I don't want the best for them. I'm sorry. I am sorry, Erica. But now Erica can talk to me and the whole group, and maybe they can convince me that that's not right, but I can't stand my opponent.
So a lot of people were angry at this, and I'm disappointed in Donald Trump and all this. I loved it. First of all, it made me laugh out loud, but it was real. I mean, it was real. Donald Trump just put up a hall of fame in the White House with all the pictures of the president, and when you get to Biden, it's just an auto pen. If he had said he loved his opponents, God would have struck him with lightning. God, you think you're fooling God when you lie about that stuff. But Donald Trump always just speaks what he thinks and feels, which is one of the reasons we love him. It is actually a terrific trait. And it's a truth about politics. Politics does not take place in the kingdom of heaven. It is not beanbag. It is something where you have to fight. You have to be tough with your opponents. And yes, you don't want to, call everybody a Nazi. You don't want to have people kill them. You don't want to start riots and encourage riots. Those are all evil things to do, but you do want to fight. And that's what he was saying. And in some ways, it was a statement of humility. He was saying, I'm not as good as Erica Kirk, but I will do what I am going to do with her in mind. And this to me is the ideal. If this happens, I think we'll be in great shape. Hard men dealing justice while the mercy of the eternal feminine leads them on. That is the ideal for human activity. We will either follow that ideal, with I think was Charlie's way. I think that actually was what he was preaching, or the grifters will move in and take this over. The angry little men. There's always, listen, this is true in America. It's true everywhere. There are always angry little men, and they're always little men who hate and snarl and find ways to swamp your social media and find ways to make you intimidated. They're the people who have taken over the Democrat Party. The people running the Democrat Party are not the majority of the Democrat Party. They're the angry little men, and they're making a move to take over our party as well, now that it is on the rise and now that the work has been done of convincing people, that so it is all open, a question of what is going to happen next. But the reason it's an open question, and this is the hardest truth of all, is because the choice is going to be yours. As summer's busy pace gives way to autumn, many of us find ourselves embracing the slower season, quiet weekends, hot drinks, and cozy evenings with our favorite shows. I thought this comfortable routine was perfect until we transformed our bedroom into a true sanctuary that made these crisp fall nights with blankets and movies even more extraordinary. I'm talking about Boll and Branch's bed bundles. They make it incredibly easy to upgrade your entire bedding setup with just one click this fall. Whether you're looking for a simple refresh with new sheets and blankets or want to completely transform your sleep space, there's a bundle designed specifically for your needs. They've thoughtfully curated collections for every type of sleeper, so whether you tend to run hot and need cooling fabrics, or you love to stay cozy and warm, or simply want the softest possible feel against your skin, you will find exactly what you're looking for. Every bundle is crafted from the highest quality, 100% organic cotton in durable, long-lasting designs, and you can customize the colors to perfectly match your style. I particularly like them because I lie awake all night, so I can see how beautiful they are and how comfortable they feel, and they offer a 30-night worry-free guarantee so you can rest easy knowing your investment is protected. Boll and Branch makes upgrading your bed easier than ever with curated bundles for a sanctuary of comfort. For a limited time, get 20% off bed bundles at bollandbranch.com/Klavan. That's Boll and Branch, BOLLAND branch.com/KLAVAN. No E's in Klavan. I'm just making it look this easy. You will save up to 20%. Exclusions apply. Chapter 2, Jimmy Kimmel and a rat's ass. And I call it that because a rat's ass is what I don't care when it comes to Jimmy Kimmel. There's only one reason. There's one reason and one reason only anyone is talking about Jimmy Kimmel or about free speech. There's one reason. It is the corrupt media's attempt to change the subject from the degrading, hate-filled, small-minded ideology of the left that has permeated every aspect of our culture over the last 30 years and is the volcanic thrust behind the division and the anger and now the violence that is gripping our country as we expose them for what they are. That's why they're talking about this. That's why it's even a subject. It's the fact that this unfunny guy with no ratings was taken off the air would barely make the entertainment section if it weren't for the fact that they think that they believe they still have the power to distract us with that. Now, they do have power. They don't, the fact that I'm talking about this tells you they have power. I can't ignore it. They made it a subject. It's glamorous. It's Hollywood. It's something that's happening on TV. So it's inherently interesting. And they are using it to distract the fact that this is a story about them, the story about them that we at the DailyWire have been telling you for 10 years, starting out in Jeremy Boring's pool house. That's the story that is now coming out, and everybody is telling it, and everybody can see it, okay? It didn't start out that way. When we were doing it, we were just a little, voice in this big echo chamber of the empire of lies, and now our voice has been joined by voices that are not necessarily conservative, like Joe Rogan, and voices of, a lot of other people, Elon Musk, opening X, and all of these things have happened in these 10 years, and now they are broken, and they are just trying to patch that back together and exercise the power that they used to have. And that's the reason we're talking about Jimmy Kimmel instead of, say, the attacks on ICE officers, while Gavin Newsom calls for them to take their masks off, that are arising from the fact that the left keeps calling ICE officers Gestapos because they're enforcing federal laws that many people on the left voted for. These are federal officers enforcing federal laws. There's no Gestapo tactics. It's people who came here illegally going back where they should be. They could also be talking about the fact that, for instance, no leftist speaker has ever been attacked on a campus. Every right-wing speaker takes his life in his hands when he goes on a college campus. I mean, we all know it. The fact that conservatives are barred from working in Hollywood and the publishing industry. We're talking about all those things, but instead we're talking about Jimmy Kimmel. He went on TV. He was disgusting and hateful, and he lied about the assassin being MAGA when he was a leftist affected by the mental illness of trans ideology and the things that had been fed, the ideology, as I said, the ideology that had been fed into his mind until it replaced the golden rule. and Kimmel was taken off the air because affiliates canceled him. They're still leaving him off. They're still, even though he's gone back, I think it's over a third of affiliates are not playing him. He didn't apologize. He was his usual crybaby self. Okay, I wasn't going to play this, but play the Kimmel clip. This is him, talking about Erica Kirk's speech, and he's such a crybaby. I can't stand it, but here he is.
A moment over the weekend, a very beautiful moment. I don't know if you saw this. On Sunday, Erica Kirk forgave the man who shot her husband. She forgave him. That is an example we should follow. If you believe in the teachings of Jesus, as I do, there it was. That's it. A selfless act of grace, forgiveness from a grieving widow. It touched me deeply, and I hope it touches many. And if there's anything we should take from this tragedy to carry forward, I hope it can be that.
So, I missed the part where I'm sorry I lied for political purposes in the wake of a death. I missed that part. Probably I wasn't listening. Probably I got distracted because I couldn't stand watching a grown man cry because he realizes what a little creep he is. Meanwhile, on the same day this happened, Google admitted that the Biden administration pressured them to censor opinions on YouTube. We all know this. They did it on Facebook, too. They nearly destroyed the DailyWire. They cut off our access anytime Knowles or Walsh or I said anything about trans people. It was cut out. Our videos were killed. They did everything they could. And they said they even did some censorship themselves, all of which is much more important and illegal than anything the right has even thought. So here's J.D. Vance talking about that. This is cut 6, and I want to react to this.
People will say as well, didn't the FCC commissioner put a tweet out that said something bad? Well, compare that, the FCC commissioner making a joke on social media. What is the government action that the Trump administration has engaged in to kick Jimmy Kimmel or anybody else off the air? Zero. What government pressure have we brought to bear to tell people that they're not allowed to speak their mind? Zero. We believe in free speech in the Trump administration. We are fighting every single day to protect it. Now compare that to the Biden administration, where we found out just yesterday that conservatives on YouTube and on a number of social media platforms were being censored. Why? Because the Biden administration picked up the phone and said, we want you to censor our political opponents.
First of all, he didn't even talk about, like, for instance, the fact that Roseanne Barr was canceled and never let back on the air, and Jimmy Kimmel was in favor of that. He said this was a good thing. That Kevin Hart, this has always burned me up. He had his dream of hosting the Oscars was taken away for some tweet he wrote. No problems about free speech there, but this was a problem. I do want to say this one thing about Brendan Carr, because I noticed this online. I made a comment that I did not approve of the way he behaved in this. He's the head of the FCC, which regulates the airwaves, not cable TV, the airwaves, which are a public trust. And people said, oh, no, he didn't do anything. But that's not entirely true. And because we're on a mission from God, we want to be honest about this. He went on a podcast and he said, when you see stuff like this, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. These companies can find ways to change conduct, to take action, frankly, on Kimmel, or there's going to be additional work for the FCC ahead. That's a threat from the government about speech. And that is not what I want to see, because everybody is on the right side of free speech until they're in power, and then they're not, right? This is why we have free speech. It's to stop the powerful, because there's only free speech and speech that's censored by the powerful. Whoever is in power is a danger to free speech, even if it's us, right? And yes, the Trump administration has been great about it, but this was a mistake. He shouldn't have done it. However, I do want to add this. These airwaves are public airwaves, and maybe that's outmoded. Maybe they shouldn't be public airwaves, but for now they are, and they are regulated by the FCC. And I think without threatening, but simply by sweet reason and urging, I think the public airwaves do have a responsibility that cable TV and other forms of streaming and stuff like that they don't have. Why is every late night comedian anti-Trump? It's not good for the country. It is not good for the country that we can't laugh together at all the politicians. If anybody got up, anybody was not anti-Trump. I mean, because it's not like they're just Democrats. They hate Trump. If anybody got up and made fun of Trump a little bit, and made fun of the Democrats a little bit, I would say, great. All politicians should be laughed at. They all have power. They all need to be laughed at, every single one of them. So why isn't that true? Why is it that no hero on a TV a show can express the idea that homosexuality is sinful, or that women and men should keep to their gender roles, or that government action is not the solution, or that illegal immigration is wrong? Even on Blue Bloods, they stand up for illegal immigrants. And that's probably the most conservative show out there. I feel I was blacklisted in Hollywood. I can't prove it, but my career died in a big hurry the minute I started speaking out about my opinions. But more importantly, when I was in meetings, when I was talking about scripts, and I made any suggestion that, for instance, women and men should look like women and men, should act like women and men, or that some kind of conservative idea, it was kiboshed every time. So you don't have to blacklist me if you blacklist my ideas. And especially when you get people who are so hungry to be in Hollywood that they're willing to put up with that, which I was not. I think, while we're talking about free speech, because they want to take away from the fact that they're a violent, ugly movement that the Democrats have been taken over by the worst of their party, while we're avoiding that by talking about free speech, let's talk about the fact that I don't understand why only one side gets to speak on the public airwaves. And I don't want, the FCC to threaten people. I don't necessarily want them to pass regulations, but I wouldn't mind them making some speeches about it and saying, hey, why is this? Why is it that, if you do a survey of how many leftist opinions are on TV, it will be all of them. And if you do a survey of how many times heroes stand up for conservative opinions, it will be none. I mean, when you watch Trump, the way he does these things, the way he brings pressure to bear, that's what I want to see. And he did it at the UN, and that's what I want to talk about next. If you could go back in time and stop the Holocaust, would you? If you could rescue even one person from the worst human atrocities in history, wouldn't you do it? Now, think about this. Every single day in America, around 3,000 babies are aborted. Someday history will look back on this as a genocide of our children, because right now, 1 in 4 pregnancies ends in abortion, 1 in 4. But unlike the past, you can do something about this today. PreBorn network clinics are on the front lines, meeting women in their darkest hour, loving them and helping them to choose life. This year alone, over 38,000 babies have been rescued. And the ultrasound, that simple moment when a mother sees her baby, is the game changer. It literally doubles a baby's chance at life. Doubles a baby's chance at life. Let me ask you again, if you could, would you? Well, you can. Right now, just $28 provides a life-saving ultrasound. Go to preborn.com/Klavan. That's preborn.com/KLAVAN, or dial pound 250 and say the keyword baby. That's pound 250 baby. Together we can end this tragedy, one mother, one baby at a time. Chapter 3, Trump at his best. Trump at the United Nations was what, as they say online, what I voted for. The United Nations, some conservatives feel the UN is bad because it's evil, but I think it's bad because of the double parking in New York and the traffic, and also because it's evil. I think first the double parking, then the traffic, then it's evil. So Trump shows up, they sabotage the escalator, it stopped that, it almost tripped the First Lady, which I think would have been really, really annoying, and then his teleprompter didn't work. But then you saw why, because he gave a speech that was terrific in every possible way. The UN stinks. The UN elevates the worst nations to the same level as the best nations. And I think it should be abolished. I think we should stop paying for it. I think it should be run out of New York. And we should have a League of Free Nations, because those are the people whose opinions matter. And I don't really care what, Gaddafi's Libya thinks about human rights. I mean, it's not something that is on my mind ever. I do not care about it. So he talked about immigration and illegal immigration, this migration, let's call it what it is. And the fact that the UN was funding it.
Not only is the UN not solving the problems it should, too often, it's actually creating new problems for us to solve. The best example is the number one political issue of our time, the crisis of uncontrolled migration. It's uncontrolled. Your countries are being ruined. The United Nations is funding an assault on Western countries and their borders.
He said the UN is supposed to stop invasions, not finance them, but that's what it is. When you elevate the worst countries to the same moral level as the best countries, the worst countries are going to use that organization to conspire against the best countries, and that's what they're doing. They are destroying England. I don't know if England is ever going to come back. I don't think it is. They have destroyed it with immigration. They would have done it to this country. This country is so much bigger. We were harder to get to. But if we had not elected Donald Trump, they would have done it. Now, I don't believe that any other Republican would have done what he has done in the way he shut down the border, the way he's deporting people, the amount of hatred he takes for that it's heroic what he's doing. And I think it is so important because we see what it's done to the smaller countries. They're just a snapshot of what we would be in the future. It takes a little longer because we're a lot bigger, but still, that's what was coming here, and he put an end to it and gave permission to other politicians to do the same, which is one of the wonderful things he does by moving the Overton window by talking the way he does. The next thing was climate change, and this, we're going to have Bjorn Lomborg on. I'll talk about that in a minute, but here's what he said about climate change. Cut 9.
Years ago in the 1920s and the 1930s, they said, global cooling will kill the world. We have to do something. Then they said global warming will kill the world. But then it started getting cooler. So now they could just call it climate change because that way they can't miss. It's climate change. Because if it goes higher or lower, whatever the hell happens, there's climate change. It's the greatest con job ever perpetrated on the world, in my opinion.
And what Bjorn Lomborg wrote a piece for the New York Post about this, where Lomborg says, there's a problem. The climate is changing, and science. He says he's a social scientist, not a scientist, and so he says that he doesn't. Scientists say it has to do with carbon emissions and all this stuff. But what we are doing will do so little and spend so much, where the poor could be helped so much by much less spending. So it is a con job. It's as he said, Trump can talk in hyperboles. We all know that. But Trump is right about this. Climate change is it may be a form of moral graft. Let's call it that. It is a way of saying, if I spend this money, I will be known as good. And yet it leaves the poor in the lurch because the poor need to use fossil fuels to catch up to the rich. And that's what happens in China. And China used all this coal to get where they are, and because it's the cheapest way to do it. And all of this stuff is really we could do a lot more for a lot less and without crippling ourselves, which is what we're doing. Then, in a real shocker, and I just thought this, the thing about Donald Trump is because the media is, did I mention this before, 100% corrupt? Did I mention that figure? Because it's a hard figure to remember. It's not complex like 98%. It's just 100% corrupt. The great things that Trump does vanish. They vanish. He closes the border, vanish. Nobody talks about it. He bombs Iran, stops their nuclear program, gone. That's over. All that matters, tariffs. Tariffs haven't done anything yet, but oh boy, what they're going. Oh man, the inflation is coming. It's coming. Things that haven't happened yet. We hear about all the time because people think that they heard Trump, but things that he has actually accomplished just absolutely disappear. So he put out he's at the UN where all these world leaders, so he's talking to Zelensky, he's talking to all these people behind the scenes, and he put out a Truth Social tweet saying, after getting to know and fully understanding the Ukraine-Russia military and economic situation, and after seeing the economic trouble it is causing Russia, I think Ukraine, with the support of the European Union, is in a position to fight and win all of Ukraine back in its original form. Now, this was obviously a message to Vladimir Putin. And to quote Dashiell Hammett, the message was 2 words, the first a short guttural verb, and the second, you. He was telling, because Putin has reacted to Trump's attempts to reach out and make peace and risk his reputation while everybody's saying, oh, he loves Putin. He has man crush on Putin. I don't believe any of that. I think he knows who Putin is down to his soul. But they used to have common interests. So Putin would work with Trump, and Trump loves to work with people and loves to negotiate. But now they don't have common interests because Putin is in big trouble. His economy is cratering. I think inflation is like 20%. It's unbelievable. He's lost 1 million people. They're not moving. They're stuck like in World War I. They're stuck in these trenches, taking inches of Ukraine at a time. And he's stuck in there. And so the only thing he can do is show how much stronger he is than Trump by going and negotiating and then upping his attacks on civilian targets and just kind of and making incursions into airspace of other countries in Europe, which is, like Estonia and Poland. And what Trump is saying is, okay, I gave you a chance to make peace. Now there's going to be sanctions. Now I'm going to say to he's not committing us, which is the part of the brilliant thing about it. The last line in this tweet was like, good luck to everybody. Have a good time. Have a good time fighting your war on your continent. But he was asked this at the UN about what they should do about incursions into European airspace. There's that clip.
Mr. President, do you think that NATO countries should shoot down Russian aircraft if they enter their airspace?
Yes, I do.
So he's telling them open fire, and the Europeans are thrilled. The Europeans are thinking, yes, finally, he's doing what they wanted him to do all the time. And a lot of people are saying, why didn't he do it before? He thought he could make peace. I mean, if that's a sin, too bad. That's not a sin in my book. He thought maybe he could make peace. He thought he had a good relationship with Putin. Like every single president, he didn't quite gauge the measure of Putin's evil. Putin is a wicked, wicked gangster of a man. And all of the stuff I've heard on the right, he's not so bad, he built a church. He is a gangster. He is a tyrant, and he is a wicked person who kills his opponents. You cannot fall in love with strong men and still consider yourself an American. We come from a country where the first president laid down his arms and gave them to the civilian population, left the presidency because he didn't think we needed a king. That is the model of an American, not a guy like Putin who gets elected by 98% every election. And if you didn't vote for him, you fall off a building. That's not what we're looking for. And I don't think Trump is in love with him at all. I think he just thought maybe he could make a deal, and he can't. And now it's on Putin. And like I said, Putin is bad shape. This is the weakness of every tyrant, is that there's no way out. There's no, I'll step down, There's, we can hold an election and I'll lose. That's not going to happen. No tyrant ever lets go of power, because if he does, he's dead. And that is what Putin is fighting for. Putin is fighting for his life. And I don't think he's going anywhere with this war. I don't think he's going to make it. And I think his economy could genuinely collapse. And then he'll be in genuine big trouble. So if Trump can convince Hungary and other nations to stop buying oil from the guy and financing the war they're supposed to be fighting, if he can stop them from doing that, it's going to go hard on Putin, and there's not going to be much he can do about it, because eventually he's going to be removed from power in the way that tyrants are removed from power. Trump is doing an amazing job. I mean, if I were still playing that Trump happiness montage, obviously the new montage doesn't fit here, but if I were still playing the Trump happiness montage, I would play it now, because this is what winning looks like. Trump is now the center of the free world. And that means America is the center of the free world, instead of having the, Italian prime minister have to round up our president and show him where his shoes are. Now we have a president that they come and try and please and try to do what he wants them to do and wait on his power. So this is a good thing. It's that when I say that the arc of history is about to bend, this is part of that bend. And if Trump continues to keep his head on straight and continues to do the things we need him to do, I think he's going to set up the table for J.D. Vance. And like I said, I believe that J.D. Vance is going to leave the grifters behind and become also a terrific president. So there is one more open question, and that's our final chapter. With everything going on in the world lately, it's no wonder people are focused on protecting their financial future. One option you might not have considered recently is life insurance, which gets significantly more expensive as you age. The difference is dramatic. What you'd pay in your 20s or 30s could easily double by your 40s. That's why it's time right now to look into SelectQuote. Life insurance doesn't have to be complicated. SelectQuote has been helping people like you for over 40 years, finding the right coverage at the best price from top-rated companies. Here's how it works. Their licensed agents do all the heavy lifting. They'll compare plans that fit your health, lifestyle, and budget completely free. You could even get coverage the same day, up to $2 million with no medical exam required. If you've got pre-existing conditions like diabetes or high blood pressure, that's no problem. SelectQuote works with companies that cover people with health conditions. Just head to SelectQuote.com and an agent will call you with options tailored specifically for you. They shop, you save. Life insurance is so important. You got to have it in case something happens. It's never cheaper than it is today. Get the right life insurance for you for less and save more than 50% at SelectQuote.com/Klavan. Save more than 50% on term life insurance at SelectQuote.com/Klavan today to get started. That's SelectQuote.com/ how do you spell it? You guessed it. It's KLAVAN. Final chapter, the political future of God. This is the subject that everyone's talking about, and especially the left, because the left is in shock, because Charlie's death has brought out the open expression of faith in the political realm. It's a big subject, God's role in our politics. This chokes the left because they have put so much work into making sure the crucified stay crucified. That guy just keeps rising up. He keeps rising. You go to the tomb, you think he's dead. The tomb is empty. What the hell is going on? He keeps coming back. This is so important because God is real. And if you're not talking about him, if you're not thinking about him, you're actually out of your mind. Because it's like not thinking about gravity. It's like not thinking about sunshine. It's not thinking about the source of all the things that happen in our lives. So let's start out for a reaction to this. Let's start out at the New York Times, a former newspaper, at the op-ed page, or as I call it, Knucklehead Row.
Oh, heady, hey, oh, heady, ho. Let us go waltzing down to Knucklehead Row.
So David Brooks, a Knucklehead Supreme, he writes a big piece about this, I believe it was today, in which I have to say he starts out, to be fair, and he acknowledges the fact that Christianity and American freedom are inextricably intertwined, that there is no separating Jesus Christ from our freedom. There is, and I will say that that is a fact. And it's not just a social fact. Of course, it's a social fact. We're a Christian country. Our ideas come from Christianity. Our ideas were shaped by Christianity. It is just a fact that Jesus Christ and our freedom are intertwined. But at the end, this is where he comes down. And I chose David Brooks because he was the most measured person, I think, on the left. He says he thinks he's a conservative, but he's not. The critics of Christian nationalism sometimes argue that it is a political movement using the language and symbols of religion in order to win elections. But the events of the past week have proved that this is a genuinely religious movement, and Charlie Kirk was a genuinely religious man. And they can't hide that because we're putting it out there all the time. The problem, says David Brooks, is that unrestrained faith and unrestrained partisanship are an incredibly combustible mixture. I am one of those who fear that the powerful emotions kicked up by the martyrdom of Kirk will lead many Republicans to conclude that their opponents are irredeemably evil and that anything that causes them suffering is permissible. It's possible for faithful people to wander a long way from the cross. Now, it's funny, of course, because we're looking at the Charlie Kirk's memorial, thousands, tens of thousands of people, probably over 100, probably over 100,000 when you take the people outside. They're talking about forgiveness and they're talking about their faith, but it's the godless. I mean, it's so amazing. We come out of the 20th century when godless communism and godless Nazism or Christless Nazism, because in the Nazis they said, it's not Christ, it's Hitler you're supposed to worship. That's what they said. They killed more people than all of the religious wars in all of history in a course of about, 50 years, right? And somehow it never occurred to anybody that maybe it's a God problem. Maybe it's a God problem, right? It's like no God is the greatest danger. But because I will be fair and I want to tell the truth. There is a scrap of truth to what he's saying. I think we all know that religious people can be hateful, that there are, you only have to go on X to see religious people being hateful. And Charlie Kirk was criticized sometimes for his so-called social liberalism, which wasn't social liberalism at all. And here he is explaining his point to Ben Shapiro on one of Ben's shows.
I believe marriage is one man, one woman. I believe in biblical marriage. I always have. And I also have people that are gay on my staff, and I'm not afraid to share the stage with people that are gay. Other individuals think, and they have said this, that gay people do not have a position in the conservative movement. I believe that is wrong. I believe that Dave Rubin and Peter Thiel and Tammy Bruce have a place in the conservative movement. I absolutely do. And I think that I think it's so backwards that they would believe that we should somehow grow the influence of the conservative movement by the process of subtraction.
See, this is why I always get worried when I hear conservatives who want to blow themselves up, so I want to feel like big men, start saying that this is war. This is politics. See, that's what Charlie was doing. He was doing politics. The difference between war and politics is you win a war by eliminating your enemies. In politics, you win, in democracy politics, you win by convincing the people in the middle that more of their interests are served by you than by the people on the other side. That is how you win. You convince them. And what Charlie Kirk says is right. If you leave people out, if you exclude people, you are going to lose that, right? We're in the midst, as I keep saying, we're in the midst of winning this fight. We're in the midst of winning this fight, and it's ours to lose. And the answer to me is simple. God has to be at the center of it because God is at the center of everything. He's real. I'm not talking about religion. I'm not talking about how you pray. I'm not talking about whether you're talking, like the Pope in Rome or you hate the Pope in Rome. I don't care. I do not care. I'm talking about Jesus Christ, our Lord, the incarnate Lord. He is real. He is real, okay? And so if you leave him out, if you leave out the center of everything, you start saying crazy stuff. Just like if you leave out gravity and say, I'm going to walk off this building and float away, you get crazy, right? This has made us crazy. The idea that men can become women, not true. That criminals are victims, not true. That Islam and Christianity are the same. That love is love. These are all crazy statements, and they induce the people who are unstable into becoming crazy. And I'm not making any excuses for anybody, by the way. I have to insist on that again and again. Even if you're crazy, you can know the difference between right and wrong, and you can do right even if you're crazy. I see that a lot. I've seen crazy people who are good people, but they're suffering, they're afflicted. But we do have to talk about God's will with humility because we see God through a glass darkly. And this is just important. The people who think they know are the people who get mean, right? It's the people who feel their way who are moving toward Christ. Even Scripture, we have Scripture. It is the Word of God. As C.S. Lewis says, it's not always the Word of God in the same way. Not every passage of Scripture is the Word of God in the same way, but it's all the Word of God. But it needs to be interpreted, and people disagree, right? And we have to go forward with argumentation, debate, same way we go forward in politics. We have to try and understand what it says. And Jesus gave us a guide. This is what he said. He said, love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. That's the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like it, love your neighbor as yourself. All the law and the prophets hang on these two commandments. So if you hear yourself interpreting the Gospels in such a way that there is cruelty in your heart, that you are cruel to people, that you treat them with disdain, that you despise them, you've made a mistake. You interpreted it wrong because all of the law and all of the prophets hang on the love of God and the love of your neighbor. So you are interpreting it wrong. There is never a reason to treat people with disdain. There's never a reason to treat people derisively and cruelly. So you go back, you change your mind. Say, hey, I indulged my anger, I indulged my hatred, I got it wrong, I mistook the word of God. If you do that, if you act with love, if you act with forgiveness, if you act with justice, you are going to find yourself at times berated, alone, despised. People are going to attack you on social media. You're going to lose friends. This is the way, this is the Christian way. We worship a man who was the truth incarnate. He was a man, but he was also God incarnate. He was crucified by the state at the insistence of the religious leaders, while the people deserted him and jeered at him and made fun of him while he died. Popularity means nothing. Likes mean nothing. They don't mean bad things. There are plenty of good things that are popular and plenty of bad things that are popular. It means nothing, okay? It means nothing. So when you're alone, if you're sticking to the truth of love, if you're sticking to the 2 commandments that tell you how to read the Gospels, do not be afraid. Do not be brought down. Follow the love. Follow the truth. Here in the world, the truth is still hanging on that cross every day. This very day, it is hanging on that cross. But our kingdom is not of this world. It's the truth, even the hard truth, that will lead us to that kingdom. Leave the grifters behind and follow that truth. I miss fishing a lot, but I don't miss fish because I use Wild Alaskan Company. They knock it out of the park. They deliver the best wild-caught seafood straight to your home. Each portion is perfectly sized in 6-ounce portions and packed with nutrients you won't find in regular store-bought fish. Once you taste the difference, you will never go back. I have fished Alaska. The fish there tastes incredible. And their fish is 100% wild caught, never farmed, which means you're getting pure seafood with no antibiotics, GMOs, or additives. These pristine fish support both healthy oceans and fishing communities while delivering exceptional flavor. I like it. I don't cook it. My wife cooks it, but she cooks it great and it tastes great. Plus each catch is flash frozen right on the boat. That preserves the natural taste, the texture, and beneficial omega-3s. When you join Wild Alaskan Company, you're not just getting extraordinary seafood, you're supporting sustainable harvesting practices in Alaska while enjoying flexible deliveries and expert cooking guidance that makes every meal special. Not all fish are the same, and the best of them are in Alaska. Get seafood you can trust. Go to wildalaskan.com/Klavan for $35 off your first box of premium wild-caught seafood. That's wildalaskan.com/Klavan, Klavan, because you were wondering, you will get $35 off your first order. Thanks to Wild Alaskan Company for sponsoring this episode. Download the DailyWire Plus app and bring the entire show everywhere you go. Inside the app, tap follow under my picture. You'll get notifications the second I go live or drop a new episode. Step away anytime and come back exactly where you left off. Plus, you can watch all the same clips everybody's arguing about on social media without having to suffer through social media. The app is where our community lives, chatting live during shows, sharing ideas, debating the big questions, and because it's ours, it can't be canceled, censored, or shut down. Download the Daily Wire Plus app now in the App Store, Google Play, Roku, Samsung, and more. Klavan Klapbacks.
We must have a talk about the MacGuffin.
Yeah, we are going to talk about the MacGuffin in the member block. So stay tuned for that. We're going to talk about movies and the MacGuffin. It really should be a good time, but you got to be a member to do it. Let's do the clapbacks first. Go to Klavan Klapbacks at dailywire.com. Klavan with a K, Klapbacks with a K at dailywire.com. Ask me any question you like, political, religious, personal, whatever you want. I will try and get to them. The first one here is from John the Russian. He says, your comments on last week's show irked me. The beliefs of Christianity are entirely at odds with the practice of any other faith. Knowing that man is always moving toward Christ or to the devil, can we not conclude that the survival and health of a holy Christian nation depends on the degree to which your people are a Christian people? Perhaps more importantly, that we do not know the final judgment of any man does not mean we cannot surmise it. Please tell me how I'm wrong so I can rush out to pre-order your book after that, The Dark. Well, you can rush out, and I'm going to tell you that you're wrong on every point here. God love you, and I'm thrilled that you wrote, but I disagree with you. The beliefs of Christianity are entirely at odds with the practice of any other faith. Not true. There's a Venn diagram, many other faiths partake, including Judaism, certainly Hinduism, Taoism, partake of things that Jesus said. These are, obviously I believe that Christianity is the whole truth and a clearer version of the truth, but there are places where we agree, and we should emphasize those places and bring them out because they are central to Christian faith and they do appear in other religions. A holy Christian nation depends on the degree to which your people are a Christian people. That is not true. It depends on, it's not true. I mean, this country has always had non-Christians, and most people, their Christianity is was always functional. I mean, if you go back when, for instance, the Hayes Office took over the movie business, most people didn't care about the Hayes Office. They didn't want the Hayes Office. They didn't want censorship. They wanted to see naked girls. I mean, that's the way most people are. What you need is a core of people who are steeped in Christian culture, and some of them can be Jews, and some, I don't care what they are. They, it's like they need to be steeped in Christian culture and ascribe to it. They need to ascribe to the product of Christian culture, the Constitution, the Declaration, and other American ideas. We've always had an American religion which rested on Christianity, so you need a strong core of Christians. I will give you that, but not everybody has to be a Christian. Not even a majority have to be a Christian, even though that would be devoutly to be wished. We do not know the final judgment of men does not mean we cannot surmise it. Jesus said, judge not, lest you be judged, because as you judge, so will you be judged, okay? So when you surmise what a person's judgment is, I'm talking about spiritual judgment, not whether he's done evil in the world. I'm talking about the spiritual judgment, whether he's damned, whether he is moving toward Christ, whether he will end up with Christ. When you do that, you are passing judgment. When you make that surmise, you are passing judgment. You will be judged by the quality of your judgment. Whose judgment do you think you want to be judged by, yours or God's? Who is going to be the most merciful? Who is going to be the most fair? Who is going to get at the truth? Who is going to put you where you belong, which hopefully will ultimately be by his side? You do not want to be judged by your quality of judgment. You want to be judged by Christ's quality of judgment. Trust me on this. And so you don't want to make that surmise. You want to just understand that we don't know whether people are going to be with Christ in the end of their life, because we see in time, and somebody might be at the absolute dregs of degradation and yet wind up at the right hand of God. Hannah says, I recently found out I'm pregnant with our third baby. This is going to go a little long because I want to talk about this. I'm struggling with how to handle the anger I have towards my mother-in-law. When we had our second baby, she came to help and she drove me crazy. She was always complaining. She yelled at me for letting him cry, and I completely broke down mentally. When we started talking about a third child, she has been shouting, your body, your choice at me, trying to tell me not to let my husband force me into another child. This is completely the opposite of how I feel. My husband and I made this decision together. I am emailing because I feel I don't want to tell her about this new child that I'm carrying. I don't want her help again or any involvement from her. I'm fighting the urge to shut her out completely. I'm a godly woman and want to handle it the best way possible. Any advice? Yes. But my advice is not to you. My advice is to your husband. And I hope he'll listen to this, and I hope you play it for him. Your job in this situation is 100% to support your wife. She is your flesh. She is the mother of your children. Your mother is misbehaving. You have got to protect your wife. If she doesn't want your mother taking care of that baby, don't compromise. Don't be nice. Don't say, obviously you should be respectful and loving. You should honor your mother, but do not let her into the house if she is going to make your wife crazy. Your wife is your responsibility. She is the keeper of the house, but you are the wall around that house. And every husband has to do this at some point. Every husband has to stand. Mothers-in-law and wives are natural enemies. Every husband at some point has to stand up to his mother and draw the line. You cannot have somebody in there telling her she should abort this baby or telling her she's not taking care of that baby correctly. If your mother can't handle it politely and nicely, you say, I stand with my wife. My wife is my flesh. My wife is the mother of my children. I am standing with her. That is 100% your responsibility, and you have to do it. And if you don't do it, you're a wimp. You've got to do it. You've got to be able to stand up for your mother and to protect your wife from her. She is completely in your charge in this, and your responsibility is to protect her. And I said it, so you know it's true. All right. You want to become a member? We're going to be having a really fun conversation, I hope, about movies and the MacGuffin and what they mean. So become a member today. Go to dailywire.com/subscribe. Use code Klavan at checkout for 2 months free on all annual plans. I don't want to threaten you, but if you don't, you'll be plunged into a Klavanless darkness I can't even begin to describe. If I threatened to take you out into the woods and you'd never come back, it would not be as bad as what is about to happen to you. So go and subscribe. And the rest of you who have subscribed already, come on over to Member Block.